Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you are all doing very well today. I hope you don't mind, but if you'll permit me, I'd like to share with you just some brief thoughts and comments that I might have with respect to the recent announcement that was made with respect to the planned releases for November 2019 from the Criterion collection. So the first film is scheduled to be released November 12th, 2019 on Blu-ray and on DVD. This is Greg Motola's The Daytrippers, and this is scheduled to be released for spy number 1001. Now, I know that there was also some speculation on some people's part, myself included, with respect to, maybe Criterion might do something big for spy number 1001. Who knows what they might do, but here it is. They've decided to have the Daytrippers, and this is a very interesting choice, if I do say so myself. The filmmaker, Greg Mottola, his work is... I admit I haven't seen all of his filmography. I have seen the film, for instance, I have seen the film Superbad, and I really enjoyed that film. I don't own it, but I really enjoyed it. I actually remember seeing it in the theater. But the Daytrippers is the selection here for Spy 1001. So what we have here is a new 4K digital restoration supervised by the director with uncompressed stereo soundtrack on the Blu-ray, and a new audio commentary featuring Mottola and editor Anne McCabe and producer Steven Soderbergh. Then there are new interviews with Mottola and cast members. And then there is the 1985 short film that he did, which is called The Hat Box, with audio commentary by the director. I haven't seen The Hat Box actually, so this will be very interesting for me personally. And then there is an essay by critic Emily Nussbaum, and the cover art by R. Kikuo Johnson. And so let's just refer to that once again here. Like so. Again, I apologize for the glare. I'm not so good with this. It's better for you to get a better look at the cover art if you go to the Criterion Collection website directly. And as you can see, whenever I do this with an iPad or the computer, my face turns a little bit orange, and so that's just due to the light and the way that the reflections are had, and I can't help that, so I apologize for that. But hopefully you can go look at the Criterion Collection website and you can take a look at the cover art. It's very interesting, very bright, very vibrant, and it has a nice sort of effervescent, almost comic book-like feel to it, which is very appealing, I think. So this is spy number 1001, The Daytrippers. I must admit I was a little bit surprised, but pleasantly so. It's like maybe some people might feel a little bit disappointed if one was expecting something quote-unquote grand or ambitious or cinematically great or worthy, quote-unquote, for spy number 1001. But here we have the Daytrippers, and so this is, again, I think an indication of Criterion's mission, classic and contemporary films that are worthy of the Criterion treatment, so to speak. This is a very, very interesting choice, the Daytrippers, and so I haven't seen this film in such a long time, and it never crossed my mind, actually, to be perfectly honest, that this film would be part of the Criterion collection. But here we go. So this is a surprise, to be sure, but a pleasant one. So spine number 1001, The Daytrippers. Next, scheduled to be released on November 19th, 2019. Curiously, although this is next in the order in terms of the coming soon titles as they appear in the Criterion collection right after the Daytrippers, this isn't spine number 1002, but it's spine 1005. But for whatever reason, the schedule is November 19th, 2019 for this film. Cold War from 2018. Pawlikowski. Pawlikowski. So this is Cold War. Now again, I apologize for the glare and the poor it doesn't turn out very well, but again, please excuse me for this. This is very interesting. I have not seen this film. This came out in 2018, and I heard many great things about it, and I heard many great things from critics and also from very dear friends of mine who had seen it. And unfortunately, I was never able to catch up with it because I didn't know how to find it here in Tokyo. So I was thinking about watching it, but as you know, I'm really not good with my modern release films or recent release films. So I'm very surprised by this. I had not heard anything necessarily about this particular film coming into the Criterion collection. But from what I gather as to the subject matter and the story and the way it's presented, it feels like a very nice fit with the Criterion collection. And I'm sure those of you out there who have actually seen the film might agree with that, perhaps. So this is another big surprise for me. This November. So Cold War. So spine number 1005, Cold War. I look forward to seeing this one. The director-approved special edition features are a new 4K digital master supervised and approved by director Pawlikowski and director of photography Łukasz Zal, with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack on the Blu-ray. And then there's a new conversation between Pawlikowski and filmmaker Alejandro G. Iñárritu. That sounds very interesting. Then there is a press conference featuring Pawlikowski and Zal, the director of photography, Zal. And then the actors, Johanna Kulik, Tomasz Kot, and Boris Szec, and producer Ewa Puszczyńska. Then there are documentaries from 2018 on the making of the film, and these also I have not seen. Trailer and new English subtitle translation, and plus an essay by film critic Stephanie Zacharek. So, very interesting. And the cover art is credited as being by Katya Medzhivovskaya. So let's look at that again. It looks like it's black and white, stark, and the characters are being portrayed here. So, again, Cold War, spine number 1005. This is a film that I have not seen, but I look forward to seeing. And this is, from my point of view, a very complete surprise. I had not expected anything like this. It's also a surprise because it's such a recent film, too. It only was released last year. So Criterion does this occasionally, but not so often. And when it does, it really is another surprise, a pleasant one, I should say, because of the great critical acclaim that this has gained ever since its release, which was not so long ago. So, Cold War for spine number 1005. Next, also scheduled to be released November 19th, 2019. This is scheduled to be released under spine number 1002. So 1002. This is the film from 1986, France. Jean-Jacques Benix. The film is Betty Blue. Betty Blue. Now this had been, excuse me here again. There we go. I hope that's better. There we go. This had been hinted at in a newsletter clue, I think, rather recently. And so this, to me anyway, isn't this isn't as big a surprise as some of the other November releases. Still, it is really nice to see this film. I believe that the filmmaker Benix has or had another film in the Criterion collection, that being Diva, which was a Criterion collection Laserdisc, for those of you who are into the Criterion Collection Laserdiscs. But I don't think Betty Blue was ever a Laserdisc in the Criterion Collection. So to have this film is very interesting. This is quite a memorable film, and I had the pleasure of seeing it some years back. I haven't had a chance to own the DVD of it, but I did see it. I actually saw two versions of it, and I actually want to talk about that in a moment. But before I do, let me just go over briefly what the special edition features are. So there's a high-definition digital restoration approved by the director Benix with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. Then there is Blue Notes and Bungalows, which is a 60-minute documentary from 2013. Now, this I have not seen, so I look forward to seeing this one. Then there is a short video called Making of Betty Blue, and again, this is also something which I have not seen, so I can't speak to it in any detail right now. Then there is a short film by Benix from 1977, which is called Le Chien de Monsieur Michel, from 1977. And this is also a film that I have not seen, so very interesting indeed. I look forward to this very much. Then there is a French television interview from 1986 with director Benix and star Beatrice Dalle. So there is a French television interview from 86 between Benix and Dalle here. Plus, there is also a screen test of Dalle, and then trailers, and a new English subtitle translation, and an essay by critic Chelsea Phillips Carr, and new cover art, which is credited as being by Jason Hardy. And let's just take a look at that right there. Again, sorry for the glare. Your best bet, of course, is to look at the Criterion Collection website directly to get a better sense of what the cover art looks like. But it's got the blue and pink motif with the star there pictured on the cover. Very interesting indeed. I should mention here that the Criterion website indicates that the film is with the running time of 184 minutes. My understanding of the film, and I'm no specific expert in the film Betty Blue, but I do understand that there are two versions, at least, of this film that have been released in sort of wide media or in theaters. The original theatrical release, I understand, was approximately 2 hours or 120 minutes. And then much later, I think I want to say in the mid-2000s, perhaps, maybe earlier, I'm not sure, but I think the director's cut, what was called the director's cut, was then released. And that director's cut clocked in at about 180 minutes, as far as I can tell. So the fact that this running time here is 184 minutes would indicate to me that this is the director's cut. And in fact, yes, it says in the description by Criterion, it says the film, the art house smash, presented here in its extended director's cut. So that means that this is the longer cut than the original theatrical 120-minute cut. But what is interesting here is that there's no indication that the original theatrical cut, the 120-minute cut, is also going to be included. So it looks like we're only going to get the extended director's cut. So that's interesting. I'm not sure, for those of you who are, let's say, completists or want to get all the versions available. Sometimes Criterion does this, as we see. For instance, Criterion presents multiple versions of certain films like The Tree of Life or Andrei Rublev, as an example. But other times Criterion doesn't do this for whatever reason. For instance, Picnic at Hanging Rock comes to mind. That was a director's cut, but it didn't include the theatrical cut version of that film, which is actually longer than the director's cut in that instance. Here, Betty Blue, there is no indication that the original theatrical cut of 120 minutes is going to be included. So we're just getting the extended director's cut. And I say, I mean, I'm sort of I'm sort of catching myself and saying, I said just getting, but we're getting a lot there. The director's cut, which I've had the good fortune of seeing, is quite good. I think it's quite good indeed. I think it just would have been, I think, that one extra step nicer if we had seen the original theatrical cut here. Whether that would have been the main presentation and the extended director's cut would be the supplement, or vice versa, whatever the choice may be. I think perhaps the extended director's cut is becoming the standard, if you will, for evaluation of this film, at least as far as I'm aware. But the theatrical cut, the shorter theatrical cut, is still available as far as I can ascertain on DVD, maybe from Europe, I think. But if you're interested, maybe you can check that out and try to hunt it down. I don't think it's too difficult to find, but I don't own the film, so I don't quite know for sure. But yes, that's a little bit of a shame, but again, the extended director's cut is still very, very good, so I'm not too disappointed in that. But in any event, my friends, this is a very, very memorable film, and so I look forward to the conversations that will be had about this when people sit down and watch it. The extended director's cut, 180 minutes. Here is Betty Blue. Next, scheduled to be released on November 26, 2019. This is from 1942, and this is indicated as being for spine number 1004. Irving Rapper, Betty Davis film, Now Voyager. This caught me completely off guard. I had no idea this was coming. I should point out here very briefly that I usually don't have a good sense of the rumors of Criterion, what they might release, what they might not release. I am, excuse me, I, for example, know of the newsletter clues, but I am very poor at guessing what the clues mean, etc. So maybe this had been hinted at before and I just didn't catch it. But for me personally, this was a surprise. I was not expecting any kind of Betty Davis film for November, let alone Now Voyager and one other film which I'll mention in a second. Now Voyager, I love this film. I don't own it, but I remember seeing this so much when I was much younger, and I just never thought about it again until I just read about this Criterion release. So this is really, really great and opportune. So thank you very much for Criterion for reminding me of this lovely, wonderful classic. And then we're getting a Betty Davis double bill, which is really wonderful. So this is spine number 1004, and what we are getting also is a new restored 4K digital transfer with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. Now, as I mentioned before, I don't have this film, and so I don't know of the release history. I don't know of the restoration history of this film. So I hope, I can assume that this 4K digital transfer will look great, and I can't wait to check it out. Then there is the episode of The Dick Cavett Show from 1971 with actor Betty Davis. Interview with Paul Henreid from 1980. Then there's selected scene commentary of the film score by Professor Jeff Smith. New interview with film critic Farron Smith-Nemi on the making of the film. A new interview with costume historian Larry McQueen. 2 radio adaptations from 1943 and 1946, which I haven't heard actually, so that should be very interesting. Plus an essay by scholar Patricia White and 1937 reflection on acting by Davis. And the new cover by Sam Hadley. And let's take a look at that cover art again here. So again, your best bet, of course, is to take a look at the website of Criterion itself. But just look at that. Look at those colors, and the font and Betty Davis there on the ship, really, really great. This was, again, a complete surprise, a pleasant one, and a great one. And I can't wait for this. I haven't seen this in a long time, so this will be a wonderful return for me to this film, which is scheduled for spine number 1004, now Voyager. Next, scheduled also to be released November 26, 2019. This is for spine number 1003. I said before with other films in the November release slate, the Daytrippers I was surprised at, Cold War I was surprised at, now Voyager I was very surprised at, but this one I completely had no idea. I was not expecting this film at all. Incredibly interesting. I'm so happy that Criterion managed to get the rights to be able to release this film. All About Eve. Wow. All About Eve. Man. Amazing. Amazing. From 1950, and for good reason. This is considered perhaps one of, if not the most famous Betty Davis performance. It is crackling and on fire and funny and witty and so venomous and so wonderfully, deliciously venomous and just crackling all the time, just on fire, volcanic and playful. Margot Channing, one of the greatest characters ever depicted on film, if you asked me, from 1950. So so great, really wonderful. We're getting a 4K digital restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. Then we're getting 2 audio commentaries from 2010, which I think had been featured on the earlier Blu-ray release of this film by, I think it was 20th Century Fox, Home Video Entertainment. And so a lot of the features that were featured on that earlier Blu-ray release, non-Criterion release, I think are being carried over here. That's fine, because those features I think were really good. But anyway, among those features that are being carried over from that earlier release are these 2 commentaries. I understand that, yes, I actually have the Blu-ray somewhere, and yes, those 2 commentaries were on the older Blu-ray, and so they're being carried over. So the first is by actor Celeste Holm and director Joseph Mankiewicz's son Christopher Mankiewicz, and also author Kenneth Geist. And then the other commentary is by Sam Staggs. So they're both very good. I've had the pleasure of listening to both of them on more than one occasion, actually, because, as I say, I'm a big fan of this film. So then there is the feature-length documentary called All About Mankiewicz from 1983 about the director. This is a really exciting inclusion, actually. I'm not sure as to this documentary's availability, because the Blu-ray that I have, which I bought in Japan, doesn't have this at all. So, and I don't think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the documentary All About Mankiewicz is included in the U.S. release of All About Eve, the Blu-ray that was released earlier in 2010 and beyond. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not so good with my release history with these films, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as my own Blu-ray of this film, which I already have, this documentary doesn't appear on that. So, but I know of this documentary, and I actually remember seeing this documentary. Maybe it was in school. I don't remember exactly when, but I do have memories of seeing this. So it'll be nice to revisit this one again after having not seen it for the longest time. Then there are episodes of The Dick Cavett Show from 1969 and 1980 featuring actors Betty Davis and Gary Merrill. And then new interview with costume historian Larry McQueen. Once again, Larry McQueen appears in an interview here. Then there's the documentary, The Hollywood Backstories All About Eve from 2001, which is sort of a background documentary about the making of the film. It has a nice polish to it. And actually, this is also, I think, included on the earlier 2010 Blu-ray release. Actually, I was so excited about this Criterion Collection release that I watched the film again, All About Eve, and after that I had a little bit of time, and so I was just finishing up watching, not all of it because I didn't have much time, but I watched certain excerpts from this Hollywood Backstories documentary on the Blu-ray, so very fun stuff. Then there are documentaries from 2010, and these are also included on the Blu-ray, the earlier Blu-ray, about Mankiewicz's life and career, also the short story on which the film is based and its real-world inspiration, and the real-life Saracen society based on the film's fictional society. Then there is a radio adaptation of the film from 1951. Then there's a trailer. And then there's an essay by critic Terence Rafferty and the 1946 short story on which the film is based. The 1946 short story, this is a supplement that I don't quite know the history of. I've never read it. The Blu-ray that I have, which again I bought in Japan, it's a Japanese Blu-ray release, does not have any such short story included. So has this short story ever been included in any other previous release of All About Eve? If it has, please let me know. Again, it wasn't part of the Japanese release, which I have, so this is something that is very new to me, and I look forward to it very much. Then there is the new cover art, which is credited to Greg Ruth, and I will show it to you once again right here. Look at that. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. Excuse me. There we go. Sorry about that. Again, the glare is something that I'm not so good with here, so I apologize. But this looks so cool. So cool. One of the great classics of U.S. Hollywood cinema. One of the great performances by Bette Davis. It has just it's one of those stories that just comes to life, and everyone is so how should I put it? It's a very there's a pettiness that's so great to watch. There's also sincerity that's so great to watch in this film, and it all comes together, and all the performance shine, and the way it develops is this. Oh gosh, there's plotting and scheming, and also there's just goodwill and sincerity and good faith, devotion, and it's all in this wonderful swirl of a cocktail of a film. This is All About Eve. So, Bette Davis double bill for November. Wow, didn't see it coming. For those of you who guessed at this, kudos to you, congratulations to you, but I certainly didn't see All About Eve coming to the Criterion Collection, let alone coming to the Criterion Collection this November. So, well done for those of you who guessed this, but I certainly did not. But this is a wonderful surprise. All About Eve for spine number 1003. Okay, my friends, that is it for my general impressions. I'm just stunned, really. I didn't see most of these titles coming, and I'm very, very much excited for these, one of which I haven't seen yet, which is Cold War. So, and I've heard so many great things about this, so that will be very, very exciting. I would be interested to hear comments about your reactions to these titles, especially after the anticipation that was generated some time back with respect to the release of Spine 1000. Now that we have Spine 1001, 2, 3, 4, and 5, how do you feel about this? Was it a bit of, are you excited for these? Are you happy about these releases? Are you a little bit disappointed by the releases? What do you think? And also, what do you think what this says about Criterion and the way in which it seems to be treating spine numbers? Do you think this is an indication that Criterion is treating spine numbers with a certain deal of, let's say, specialness, or is this an indication otherwise? And in either way, how do you feel about that? It would be interesting to hear your thoughts about this. Again, just because something is released on a certain spine number 1 month doesn't negate the possibility that any other films that you might really want to see being released on another spine number in another month. You know what I mean? So they're not mutually exclusive. So we can wait and see what Criterion will also have up its sleeve for December. But in the meantime, we are getting some great, and from my point of view, great surprises. Especially this Bette Davis double bill. Wow. This is amazing. Okay. But anyway, my friends, thank you very much. And again, if you have any thoughts or comments about this announcement, please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear what it is you have to say. And until we meet again, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies. And don't forget, you gotta fasten your seatbelt. It's gonna be a bumpy night. All right, cheers.